It's always an honor to host you every Wednesday of the month here at Digital Earth Africa. Greetings, leaders from the African continent and across the world. Welcome to today's live session. My name is Maud Nale, the communications lead at Digital Earth Africa, and I'm very excited about today's live session. We are going to be talking about the Digital Earth Africa, or we're going to be introducing the Digital Earth Africa Spyndex Package. It is a standardized approach to calculating several indices. Our presenter, who I will introduce shortly, will also showcase capabilities of the recently released monthly GeoMAD derived from Sentinel-2 images in monitoring different phenomena. I'm excited to introduce to you my colleague who will be leading this discussion. She is no stranger here at Digital Earth Africa. She was part of the International Women's Day live session that we hosted very early on this year in March, and she's also presented a few live sessions herself. Please join me in welcoming onto the virtual stage Digital Earth Africa Earth Observation Data Scientist, Mpho Sadiki. Mpho, the virtual stage is yours. Over to you.
So much once again for having me. And as Maud already said, I'll be introducing you to the Spyndex package, which provides you with access to over 200 spectral indices that are from the awesome spectral indices catalog. And I'll also be introducing you to the monthly rolling GeoMAD as well. So just before I start, let me just remind you quickly of the Digital Earth Africa Sandbox. So this is our cloud-based computational platform that we operate through a Jupyter Lab environment, and it provides you with the limited but free compute resource. So if you're a technical user or a data scientist, you can use this platform to explore all the Digital Earth Africa data and products. So today we will actually use the sandbox to go through example notebooks that will show you how to use the Spyndex package as well as the rolling GeoMAD. And as you can see from the links here, these are the links to the GitHub where these code notebooks are can be found. So firstly, maybe I should just highlight what band indices are and why these are important. So band indices are a very important part of remote sensing because they allow us to unlock valuable insights from satellite data. So they combine different spectral bands, and this helps us then highlight specific features within the data and across the landscape. One of the most well-known one that most of us are most familiar with is the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, which is the NDVI, which is computed from a ratio of the red band and the infrared band to reveal healthy vegetation. So these band indices are very important because they provide you with very important information that can be used to map, monitor, and analyze different features across the landscape, such as vegetation and water. And they can also be used as inputs to machine learning algorithms or classification algorithms to get a deeper understanding of the planet. And while I did say I will be taking you through the Spyndex package, I think it's important that we go through a different function first before we do the Spyndex package. So before, for those who are familiar with it, you are able to compute indices using a function that exists within the Digital Earth Africa tools called the band indices module. In the band indices module, there's a function that you can use called the calculate indices. And this function consists of 30 indices that you can use to compute different indices within the Digital Earth Africa platform. So this function still exists and can still be used. And if you want to go around and have a look at it, you can go through to the sandbox, or you can go to the GitHub to get the notebook. So the actual function is contained in the Digital Earth Africa tools folder, while the example or how to use it, you can see it in the frequently used folder in the calculating band indices notebook. So this still exists, but now we are introducing you to the Spyndex package because it's just a much more comprehensive catalog of indices. It contains 232 optical and radar indices that you can use. So it's just a more, like I said, a more comprehensive set of indices that you can use and leverage within the Digital Earth Africa platform. And in order to see how this works, we will be going through the relevant notebook, which is in the frequently used code called the Calculating Band Indices Spyndex Notebook. So this notebook will take you through how to use the package and to leverage the 232 optical and radar indices. And it will do so by showing you how to load the data, how to calculate a range of vegetation indices using the function, or rather the package, and then plot said indices. Before I actually go into the sandbox to demonstrate how the Spyndex package works, I would just like to also highlight the rolling GeoMAD. So this was released a few months ago, and most of you are probably familiar with the annual and the semi-annual GeoMADs that we have for both Sentinel and Landsat. But now we have a rolling GeoMAD, which is a monthly geomedian product that is available, but only for the Sentinel-2 data from 2019. So the reason for the GeoMADs is because while you can capture images of the Earth, it's not always clear. There's sometimes clouds, and these can create gaps in your data. So it makes it very difficult to get a complete view of the entire landscape. And this is where GeoMADs come through. So the GeoMAD in the Digital Earth Africa platform have two components. We have the geomedian and the median absolute deviations. The geomedian collects and combines measurements across a specified time frame, and they are used to create a single representative multispectral measurement for every pixel unit of the African continent. So what you get at the end is an image or a pixel that is cloud-free. And when you compute or calculate these GeoMADs over different time frames, like we've done with the annual, the semi-annual, and now the monthly, it offers you different temporal resolution that you can have access to within the platform and that you can leverage in any of your analysis. So the rolling GeoMAD is summarized over a rolling period of 3 months. So for instance, if you're looking at the month of January, that geomedian would have been created using the imagery or the data from the month preceding and the month afterwards. So if it's January, it'll be December of the previous year, as well as February after that January of interest. But the interesting part about the rolling geomedian is when you load it into the sandbox, it behaves a bit differently. So if you're looking for a period of January to March, for instance, you would think that you would get 3 geomedians because it's 3 months, it's January, February, and March. But the rolling geomedian has overlaps. As I've already explained, it uses the month before and the month after to compute the month of interest, which is in the middle. So when you request for a time frame between January and March, as you can see from this graphic on the side, there's an overlap of December as well. So that December date is included when you query your geomedians for that 3-month time frame. And it also includes the April time frame as well. So instead of getting 3 images for January, February, and March, you get 5, 1 for December, January, February, March, and for April as well. But that's not a problem. You'll see as we go through the notebook how you can fix that or remove unnecessary data that might be added due to the way that the rolling geomedian loads. So that notebook is located in the datasets notebooks, and it's called the rolling GeoMAD notebooks, and it tells you it shows you how to inspect the rolling GeoMAD products, load the data, display the RGB, calculate indices, as well as inspect the MAD bands for the GeoMAD. So I will stop sharing this presentation and actually go into the sandbox so we can go through the 3 notebooks that I've mentioned here. Let me just get that open quickly. Yes, so we will start, just to confirm, Maud, you can see my screen?
Absolutely, we can.
Yes. Okay, so great. We will start with the calculating band indices. Like I said, this is a more familiar way of computing band indices within the Digital Earth Africa platform. It's been there for a while. So I'll start with that so we can just show you how it was done, how you can still do it before I move on to the Spyndex, which provides a more comprehensive list of indices that you'd have at your disposal. So the calculating band indices notebook is located in the frequently used code, and you will see it's there called calculating band indices. So as the background says, it just shows you or tells you the importance of indices and tells you what you can expect from this notebook. So this notebook will take you through two main components. It will show you how you would manually compute or calculate an index using just band arithmetic on an X array, and then it will then show you how the calculate indices function that we have in the Digital Earth Africa tools can be used to make that process better. So of course, in the notebook, you do the obvious of making sure you have your packages that you need. But one package that is very important is making sure that you get that calculate indices function from the Digital Earth Africa tools. So you need to make sure that you have imported this particular package. And of course, you need to specify your area of interest, where in this case, we're using a specification of a latitude and a longitude and a buffer. And you can then set up a query for that latitude range and the latitude longitude range that you've specified, and the time frame that you're looking for, as well as the resolution. And you can load your data, which in this case is the Sentinel-2 data that we're loading. And these are the bands that we are adding for the data. And when you run that, that should load all the good quality timestamps according to your minimum good data specification in your loading query. And in this case, we can see that we have 8 timestamps between the time frame 2019-06, so June 2019 to June 2020. So a year period. And now you can plot them and see what they look like. But if you want to then manually compute the index, you know, if you, for instance, you want to look at the NDVI, you know, the formula is the near infrared band minus the red band, and that is all divided by the near infrared band plus the red band. So you could just do band arithmetic where you add the NDVI manual parameter or variable into your data sets that you loaded up here, which is called DS, and you just do the manual mathematics to do that. So that works, but sometimes it can be a bit tedious, and sometimes these equations are a bit long, and you might actually just want to use an existing package to do that. And that's what the calculate indices function does. It provides you with access to these indices that are listed here. And as we're interested in the NDVI, that's what we're going to demonstrate in this particular notebook. And for you to be able to do that, you just need to call on the function calculate indices, which, if you remember correctly, we called from the Digital Earth Africa tools using this line. So if you don't have that line, you will not be able to actually use the function to compute the NDVI. So what you then need to do is input the data and then the index that you want to compute, which is the NDVI, and then specify the satellite mission. This is Sentinel-2, hence the S2, and that will then compute the NDVI for that data set that you have. And you'll see it when you print the data that NDVI manual is included in there. So see, it's much easier. You don't need to know the bands. You don't need to actually do the maths there yourself. You can just specify, oh, actually, it's not the manual. The manual is from the initial, from this computation, but now with the index function, that is the NDVI that is then calculated. And you'll see that the values are actually the same, whether you do it manually or you use the index. So they work exactly the same. It's just an easier way for you to do it. So that is how you can do it. But it also gives you the opportunity to compute multiple indices at the same time. So you don't have to just do one and then move on to the next one. Instead of specifying just the NDVI, you can specify the NDWI, the MNDW. You can specify as many as you want, and it would be able to compute those for you. And you can see when you print your data, your X-array data set, that those are all added. So it does improve just the way you would do your computations. And of course, you have the ability to plot the NDWI that you computed, the MNDWI that you computed as well. So it's just an easier way to do it. The only thing that we're now adding with the Spyndex is just more packages. Although the syntax is also a bit different, the main difference is that the Spyndex package offers more indices compared to the function that we had originally. So in this notebook, I'm going to then take you through how to use the Spyndex package and leverage the 232 indices that exist there. So it'll show you how to load the data, which you're probably already familiar with, and it'll also show you how to compute different indexes. And in this case, we'll be looking at vegetation indices as examples, and also how to plot the results of all the indices. So of course, you would need to import your packages. And the most important package here is the Spyndex. So you need to import the package in order to be able to use the different indices that exist within the package. So make sure you import Spyndex. And then go through the motions of getting your study area, loading your data the same way you would have done it in the previous example. The only thing that then changes here is how you would calculate your index. And the best way to know how to calculate your index is to print rather, the specifications of your index of interest. So it's not going to be exactly the same as when you're using that function here. Rather, you need to print the Spyndex indices specifications, and how you do that is using this line of code. So now we're interested in finding out, if I wanted to calculate the NDVI, how would I write the syntax out? And it would print that out for you. That's what it will tell you. Oh, sorry about that. So it will show you that this is an index that is specific to vegetation, and the band parameters that you need are the N and the R, which means it's the near-infrared and the rad band, and this is the formula that it's then going to use to compute the NDVI. So then when you go on to compute the NDVI, you just need to write out the syntax where you specify the index you want and assign to those band or parameters which bands in your data set, which is DS, which bands correspond to the N and the R. So the near infrared and the red band. That is how you'd specify it. And that would be able to then calculate the NDVI for you. So if you wanted a different index, you just do the same thing, print its specifications so you can see. So you see now that the EVI has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parameters that you then need to specify. So which is the C1, C2, G, L, N, RB. So what all you need to do is specify the index and assign the bands to the bands or the parameters of the EVI. So that's how that works. It's a bit different from the previous example with the function that the Digital Earth Africa team created, but it pretty much does the same thing. So the calculate indices function from the Digital Earth Africa tools that I showed before normalizes your Sentinel-2 data according to the maximum reflectance values of 10,000. And you can also adapt this code here, or rather how you do it within the Spyndex, to also do the same thing. And that would just mean you divide your bands by 10,000. So if that's what you want to do, that's possible. So the rest of the code actually just takes you through just different examples, the green normalized difference vegetation index. And once again, you just print the specifications to see which bands or parameters you need to specify for you to be able to calculate. And you see the same with the kernel normalized difference vegetation index. So this goes for all 232 band indices that you can find within the Spyndex package. And of course, you can plot your outputs as well to see how they look. So that is the first part, just looking at how to compute indices within the Digital Earth Africa platform. So the first one is the 30 indices that are available in the Digital Earth Africa tools, calculate indices function. And the second one is the 232 indices that are available through the Spyndex package that we've now included in the platform. So if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat or hold them for later, and I will address them. So now we'll move on to the rolling GeoMAD. So the rolling GeoMAD notebook, this one is found in the datasets folder. So if you go there and you scroll to the bottom a little bit, you should be able to see the rolling GeoMAD notebook. And this is just a notebook that shows you how to load and work with the rolling GeoMAD that we just recently launched. So in this notebook, we will inspect the products that are available, we'll load it, we'll display it, and we'll calculate NDVI. And for the NDVI calculation, I will actually show you how to do it using the original calculate indices function, and then how to do it using the Spyndex package. It results in exactly the same thing, but it's just different ways of doing it. And we'll also inspect the MAD bands from the GeoMAD. So with the rolling GeoMAD, it's just the same thing. You make sure you have all the packages that you need. And for you to be able to see what is actually available for the rolling GeoMedian, you can list the measurements in the product, which is called GMS2 rolling. So that's the GeoMedian Sentinel 2 rolling. And you can list them to see which bands you actually would be able to get within that data set. And of course, you can define your area of interest, which in this case, we are using a sugarcane plantation in Zimbabwe. So if I just zoom out, you'll be able to see that that's in Zimbabwe. So that's the area of interest that will show this example. So like I said, when you load the rolling GeoMedian data using DC load, it's a bit different. I explained that if you're looking for a period of 3 months from January 2022 to March 2022, you would not actually get 3 images for each month, but rather you'd get 5 with the month before that time frame included and the month afterwards as well. So this graphic is what I showed in the PowerPoint presentation, but it just shows exactly what I'm explaining with the overlap between January and December, as well as March and April, and why they're included into the datasets as well. So I'm just going to show it now. This is the time frame that we're interested in. We're interested in January 2021 to December 2021. So that's the whole year. And we are interested in these measurements. And remember, it's the Sentinel 2 rolling GeoMedian. And you'll see that when you load that data, you won't have 12 timestamps, so as you would expect for a year period. You actually have 14. And you'll see that the first one is actually of December of the year before, but we want of January of the year 2021, not December 2021 or 2020 rather, but that is included as well as January 2022. And they're included for the reasons that I've explained using this graphic, that the December geomedian actually uses the January data to compute its geomedian, and the same happens for the April one, where it uses the March data. So when you call the data, it just takes those overlaps and includes them into your query. But that's not an issue, because you can tweak the data to remove the first data stamp, which is the 2020 December, which we do not want, and the 2022 January, which is the last one. You can remove them, so you're only left with data for 2021 that you're interested in. And this is how you could actually do that. And now you'll see that your data only has 12 timestamps, one for each month of the year 2021. And you can actually see also when you display it, you're plotting from 2021 to 2021 January to 2021 December without the inclusion of the month before and after that time frame. So these geomedians can be used the same way you can use any of our satellite imagery on the platform, really. But the way we will demonstrate them here is using computing indices, and we'll use once again the NDVI. And in this case, we're using the NDVI computation method as described in the calculate indices function. So that function that includes only 30 indices for you to use. And as I've already explained, it's very simple. You just need to specify your data, the index that you're interested in, and the satellite mission, because the rolling GeoMAD are only available for Sentinel-2. That option can only be S2. And once you do that, it will actually calculate the NDVI for your data set. And you can actually plot it to see that it's created for every timestamp within your time frame of interest. So now we'll move on to the SMAD. So these are the median absolute deviation bands, and these provide you with information about the change within the period of the GeoMAD calculation. And it does so by preserving the high dimensional relationship between the satellite bands. For example, higher spectral median absolute deviations values, which are the SMADs, indicate a greater amount of change with the period in the case of the 3-month rolling window. And this information can help you identify areas that are more dynamic in a given period. For instance, if you're looking at agricultural areas, so it can show you activities that relate to cultivation, harvest, and maybe planting crops. So to inspect for the images from 2021 January to 2021 December, to inspect the SMAD plots, you just need to access the SMAD of your data set. If you just allow me to go back up, you'll see that you're accessing this band. This is the band that you're accessing, and you can easily plot it to see any of those changes in the GeoMADs. So that is how you would actually leverage the GeoMADs or rather leverage the calculate indices function to as it relates to the GeoMAD. But you can also use the Spyndex package, and I would like to actually show that to you. So with the Spyndex package, as I said before, you need to make sure that you have the package actually imported. So remember to import the package. And the only things that change are when you do the computation of the indices. And for this example, I actually changed the study area to a lake in Tanzania to show a different index. Instead of the NDVI, we will look at the Modified Normalized Difference Water Index, MNDWI. And so where that changes is, once again, you just print the specifications of the MNDWI so you can find out which bands you actually need to specify. And in this case, it's the green band and the SWIR1 band. So that is what you would then specify in your code to compute the MNDWI. So the rest of it is exactly the same. You can then plot to see how that particular water body is changing based on a monthly temporal resolution according to the rolling GeoMAD with time from January 2021 to December 2021. And the same goes for the SMAD, so you can still just plot and see how the rolling geomedians are actually changing. So that is actually all from me in terms of the Spyndex package, the calculate indices function, and introducing you to the rolling GeoMAD. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. And I'll just go back to the presentation to just share the last few slides. So I just like to remind you that we do have training courses that you can enroll in, which include the Digital Earth Africa Masterclass, Introduction to the Digital Earth Africa Sandbox, and a whole other host of training courses that you can take, as well as videos, tutorials, and manuals that you can view and listen to get yourself familiar with the platform and leverage the power of Earth observation through Digital Earth Africa. And some of these actually have certificates of completion that you can get at the end. So please go to learn.digitalearthafrica.org and familiarize yourself with those. And also you can email at training at digitalearthafrica.org. And you can also go to our website, digitalearthafrica.org, and get familiar with the entire program, as well as all the offerings that we make available. And please also reach out to us through our help desk, and you can subscribe to the Digital Earth Africa community to receive newsletters and invitations to any events. And these live sessions, of course, happen every Wednesday. There's the Zoom link. We have them every Wednesday at 11 a.m. GMT 0. So please join us again next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you, Mpho, that very comprehensive presentation introducing us to the Digital Earth Africa Spyndex package, as well as showing us the capabilities of the recently launched monthly GeoMAD. Thank you so much for that. As always, we love to give you an opportunity to connect with us. And on the screen, you're going to see all the ways that you can do so. Our website is www.digitalearthafrica.org. If you want to send us an email, you can do so at info@digitalearthafrica.org. Reminder about those online courses that Mpho spoke about. They are free and self-paced, and at the end, you will get a certificate of completion. There are various topics, so whether you're a beginner or you're advanced in this Earth observation space, I'm sure there is something for you. So go and visit learn.digitalearthafrica.org and get started on your journey. And we're also on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, as well as YouTube by the same name, which is Digital Earth Africa. It's been an absolute honor to host you today. Thank you so much. We host these live sessions every Wednesday at 11 a.m. GMT. We alternate between English and French. This week it was in English, but next week it's going to be in French. And so if you prefer that language, please do join us next week, Wednesday, le mercredi prochain, en français. It's going to be in French. We look forward to hosting you then. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. We'll meet again next week if you prefer French, but if not, in 2 weeks' time for our next session that is going to be in English. Until then, Please take care and have yourselves a good day. We'll meet again next week.